Alkali, 176 creator points, with a number of them made in a post-1.9 version style that has certainly piqued my interest. And yours likely too, since you're here. I've gone ahead and did the research, so you don't have to. Let's break down his secrets into something that you can now learn yourself. I've decided to split the video into specific sections, just talking about one thing at a time. Well, first we'll talk about gameplay, then we'll talk about structures, in turn colors, block design, art decoration, and lastly, changes to color over time and pulses. Each section will have a part where I outline the topic and yap about it a little bit, and also a part where we jump into the editor and together build a tiny demo applying the knowledge we've just discussed. Ready? Let's go! Alkali's layouts alone already radiate with energy. They're intense, and they have a flow that is achieved by a focus on continuity, but doesn't like breaking the cycle, even for the shortest of moments. And unusually high amount of really well-used slopes. And rhythmic orb and jump timings that both go along with the music and leave little time for you to breathe. And believe me, you can get this feeling right no matter the difficulty of your level. So here is the 6-second gameplay I'll be iterating upon and building alongside you as we go over the various sections of the video. This follows a lot of these rules I've outlined earlier, and I think it's going to be a very nice base for us today. What I would do if this gameplay was to be longer is I would definitely keep on experimenting with these slopes. I would introduce some more verticality, as this gameplay currently is a little bit more on the horizontal side, which, while it isn't really that bad, it just makes for a little bit of a bland experience. And I would definitely focus on other game modes for a little bit longer. Structures serve as a basis that our decoration itself will later sprout on. And at this stage we'll already start using some blocks more interesting than the simplest lines. Not a lot, but just a little bit. There's a few guidelines that I've compiled that are probably going to make your life easier once we get to the block design part. First of all, create interesting and diverse shapes. So don't just throw in the most basic rectangles, create an extrusion here and there. Avoid way too many thick blocks. If a block is more than 2 or up to 3 tiles thick, you're probably better off creating like some empty space in between there that you can fill with interesting decoration later on. On this point, you can also add elements that act as a sort of an overlay on a block. And just a side note is that a single block structure is going to be absolutely fine here and there, as long as you don't overuse that or base your entire level off of it. Here is some footage of me structuring 3 of these blocks. Sped up, of course, for your convenience. Feel free to follow along or just skip until the next part.
Can you hear me? We could be legend. I have nothing to lose. Nothing can stop me. I'm all the way up. Wake up. I know what's real. Escape reality. Hardwired.
Here is the entire level in the structure-only state. colors are a bread and butter of creation. Before we get into them, I want to emphasize that there is many ways to approach color, and what I'm going to show you today is just one of them, and you're free to agree with it or go ahead with something a little bit else. The main premise that will hold our colors, and effectively our design also, together will be an aim to create a super interesting looking dynamic between the glows and the darkness. We'll have a single primary lead color and a small secondary one that will be the exact same color with its hue altered, so it's a little bit further on the rainbow scale. This is also a good moment to show you which backgrounds are going to work well for this style. While I'm going to just literally display the results of my thinking in front of you just now, I'm going to quickly justify my thinking here. So the backgrounds I chose, first of all, were not pixelated. I believe that pixelated backgrounds just don't fit with this style. And for the second part, which is probably more important, these have a nice balance between the brightness and the darkness in the background. So they already introduce and complement our main idea, wherein things are supposed to be bright sometimes and also dark some other times, which is just going to aid us in our decoration and our color theory as we go ahead into creating this. As for the background color, it's most often going to be very dark and washed out, and we're going to be alternating between different ones as the level progresses. When it comes to the ground color, it's going to be copying the color of the background. And when it comes to the object color, which is, let me remind you, the color of the lines, we're going to be controlling that independently. And the line color, the line that is on the bottom, and if you're a ship like game mode also on the top, is going to just be copying the object color. This is the finished build with pulses and color changes removed. And let's talk about what we have in here. So first of all, I'm setting the object color into this light lime. And this is also applied to the line color, you can see that right here. And the line color is just copying the object channel and then blending. Background is this dark color between red and violet. And the same thing applies to our primary color as we enter that. Primary color is right here. It's blending, make sure you check that. Other colors of note that I have in here is color 4, which is color 1 copied, except it has less saturation and less brightness, still blending. And then color 5 is where we have more brightness, but we have less opacity, and that's not blending. Then, other colors, we have color 7, and that's our secondary color. So here you can see we're copying channel ID 1, so our primary color, using blending, and changing the hue to +30. Then, another color that is of note is the background color at 0.50 brightness. And also a very important one that you might use on glows is the object color, but with 0.70 brightness, still blending. And here is how it looks. The part everybody has been waiting for. We're finally here in block design. Here we go. So, let's start this by saying that with our block design, once again, we'll be reinforcing that idea, that fight between the brightness and the darkness. There's an insane amount of freedom as to which specific blocks you're gonna use. You can use the absolute majority of the 1.9 blocks, and both the glow ones and the dark ones. And you can use some of the 2.0 blocks as well. To make the line work more interesting, you can use 3D lines, but you don't have to. You can add secondary, more thick black lines beneath the main white ones as well. Mix and match the blocks styled into grey and black with ones styled with our primary color. You may use the secondary color here and there, but don't overdo it. Here are some more examples of alkalized blocks. These are true works of art if you ask me. Here is some footage of me decorating 3 structures in a row. Feel free to once again skip or watch if you're interested.
Close your eyes.
May not feel like it at first, but our decoration really puts this style together. Tasteful, sometimes pulsing, simultaneously colorful and dark. This direction is a yet another huge part of the unique charm we're chasing. Closer to the ground and structures, feel free to go wild with bright elements. Alkali has come up with many great ways to fill up space by using darker, sometimes 3D, sometimes not, shadowy one-line thick substructures. Sometimes the block design may actually depend on this air part too. Here are some examples. Both the bigger and the smaller type of these double-line pathway blocks are going to be your friends. You can also use these airy building blocks periodically alongside a pulsing square and a briefly flashing glow beam. Both of these line patterns, alongside their pulsing elements as well, are going to look beautiful too. On the ground itself, the water blocks will crush it. They will fill up the space nicely and add some nice subtle movement to the scene. Sprinkle them with any of these 4 and they'll look great. Don't put that everywhere, all the time, but it's fine to use it a lot. Other times, use any of these tricks. In the air itself, and where the player is supposed to go, try to stick with less bright, less obtrusive elements to increase readability. Always feel free to drop a star, a cloud, or a 1.9 feeling arrow combo. Reduce the amount of space you need to fill up with some creative saw blade designs. Some of them can even travel alongside a double line pathway. Yet again, enjoy this time lapse of me air decorating this part. This was a super hard part for me, but hopefully I have managed to make it much easier for you. The way you'll be structuring your pulses will highly depend on your music's choice though. With this said, let me run you through my theory for these. We'll be actively changing 3 colors. The background, and that makes the ground follow suit. Object color, and that makes the line color follow suit. And the primary detail color. And this makes color channel 4, 5, and channel 7 follow suit here. So which colors do you use? After quite a bit of struggling with this part myself, I've read up more on color theory and created this color palette. Link will be in the description. So let's talk about what exactly is in front of us. First of all, this color right here, the biggest square, is going to be our primary detail color. Then, this hue of it is going to be our background color, and then lastly this one is going to be our object color. And then if you ever want to pulse your object color to a complementary color, you can do that by accessing this color. And this is going to change as you move around your hue. I suggest going around in steps of 30, but you may do whatever you want. So here you can see we have the same palette but for violet. And once again, this is going to be your background color, this is going to be your main color, and this is going to be your object color. And then if you pulse your object color onto a complementary color, that's going to be this light green. If we go into something very different, like 225, you can see this is going to be responsive as well. So now that we know how to get colors that are not terrible, let's talk about how we wanna actually use them. So there is 3 layers to the color changes or pulses that I have made here. You can see all of them right here. And now let's talk about the first one first. So here we have a simultaneous change to the background, to the primary color, and to the object color, and they all happen at the same time with the fade time of 0.25. As you can see, I am using the exact values out of our color picker, and for the background it's that dark value. For color 1, it's this middle value, not too bright, not too dark. For object, that's the brightest value. And these happen at a change of a main note in music. You can notice that if I put this on play mode now. Pretty cool. So this already does a lot of work for us, but there's so much more we can do, and I have gone ahead and done that so much more as well. So let's look at our second pulse. So this one happens at the backgrounds, and these manipulate the brightness of the object color. On the top, the higher sounding ones, you can notice how it puts the brightness higher for a little bit, and on the darker ones, the ones lower, it brings the brightness all the way down to 0, and also pulses the background to 0.44 of its original brightness. And this is something that you'll be able to notice very immediately as I showcase this to you, as I untouch trigger this trigger. So now we can see, look at the line color and at the background color, they're gonna be actually pulsing. So there's something that has happened and that you may have or may not have paid attention to. And that is actually that not all of them only apply this to the brightness, because there's specific ones, like this one, that apply a color, a different color, a pulse of a different color. And this is our complementary color, once again, straight out of the color picker. And you can do that yourself just by looking up that complementary color for the line, or for the object in this case. So I have only 2 of them here. The first one is right here. As you can see, this complementary color is naturally, mathematically going to fit, and it looks really, really, really nice. And then the second time I'm using this is, I believe, here. And here it also pulses into that complementary color. And it once again looks just gorgeous. So now let's talk about the third, probably the least important and the last of our pulses. And these are the ones on the low hi-hats in the music. Don't quote me on that being a hi-hat though. I'm pretty sure, but I'm not going to give my head for that. So let's untoggle them. And these do, by the way, what these do is these also manipulate the brightness and the saturation of the background and of our primary color. So they're going to make them less saturated and a little bit more bright for just a split second. And now, with all 3 of our pulses enabled, let's watch this as it pulses. Pretty cool, huh? So after all this, we're finally here in the final version, and we can play it and see how it all looks. I am super proud of it, I'm not gonna lie. And with that, we've reached the end of this video. Thank you so much for getting this far. I hope it has been useful, because I sure as hell spent over a week of like non-stop work trying to get this thing done. So if it's helpful to anyone, please let me know. If you have any questions, I believe I'm going to be making a Discord server for people who would like to talk about this in any future tutorials I make. So feel free to join that. And perhaps I'll see you next time. Cheers!